welcome to another episode of the original podcast with me, your host, Sakkie van die Kerk. So welcome to another episode of the original podcast. Like usual, we have my dad, Barry van die Kerk. Welkom dad. Vanaand gaan ons die episode 'n bietjie in Engels doen. Is baie gereed vir dit.
I'll try my best.
So for the guest tonight, I have a little introduction. So what happened with some of the previous guests, I've realized that even though we know them very well, most of the listeners don't know all the accolades and all the history of their fishing. So he joined Randsport in 1984, after which he moved to go fish at a different province because he wanted to do weekend comps. That's when he just started out. And in 1989, he got his Transvaal B team colors. I think that is probably the first time that he got his competitive bug that bit him. In 1990, he moved back to the old State Transvaal and fished for Universal Club until 1999. In the year 2000, he moved back to Randsport and decided to fish for Central Gauteng. And in 2001, he got his Central Gauteng B team colors. After 2001, except for 2006, he fished for the Central Gauteng Senior A team till 2019. So if my math's not wrong, Uncle Richard, that's 16 years, right? 16 years in the Senior A team. 16 or 17 years in the Senior A team. Where in 2019, he decided to move to the Masters division. In 2007, he made the Protea team and fished the Tri-Nations in 2008. In 2011 and 2012, he made the Protea team again, and this time for the World Feeder Championship in Italy and Belgium. In 2013, he again joined the Protea team for bank angling and finished overall first on the tour. In 2016, he joined the SASAC team and toured to Namibia. And in the last 2 years, he fished in the Masters division and was selected for the Masters Protea team for 2024. But that's not all. He also acted as captain and manager for the Central Gauteng junior team between 2004 and 2009. In 2007, he was selected to join the junior Protea team, but in the match facet. In 2009, he was selected as captain of the junior Protea bank angling team and on their tour to Zimbabwe, where he was also selected as captain of the junior Tri-Nations team. In the same year, he captained the Central Gauteng juniors to a second in the SAs, where Nadine 007, which most of you will probably know from the podcast, got Victor Ladorum, the first, what we know today as a Jonge Dame, to win a junior SAs outright. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Richard Bekker, welcome to the episode.
Goeienaand Sakkie, Barry, Original. Ek sê vir julle almal baie dankie vir die geleentheid wat julle my gee om bietjie vanaand bietjie Engels te gesels. But I think we're going to do it in English, we said. So yeah, well, thanks a lot, guys. I mean, it's really a pleasure to be able to have a chat with you guys tonight and just tell us, or tell you guys a bit about my past and the way we're going forward with angling. So once again, thank you very much.
When I asked Uncle Richard for a list of just like a short summary, then eventually he sent his list, and I was like, yo, I'm going to have to work a bit to get this thing into a timeline just to understand it myself. Just to say to the people that I also fished under Uncle Richard was my captain as well for I think 2 or 3 years while fishing juniors with Dean Bekker, his son. Dad, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say that that will definitely cause the program to be 5 minutes longer because that introduction took up quite a while. The two of us has got quite a bit of a history as well. I can recall when we just started off Supercast that you and I can't remember the friend of yours that always came to visit and drink some coffee there at the factory. I can recall days like when you were on your way to Lake Mens and you broke some rods. The two of us go back a bit of a long way. And I can also tell the listeners, it's the only friend that I got that whenever we phone each other, Richard will speak Afrikaans to me and I will speak English to him. And we've tried our best in the past to resolve the problem and select either Afrikaans or English, but we've never been able to. So I speak English to Richard and he answers me in Afrikaans.
Yeah, it actually feels weird that I've got to speak English to you now. So we'll try to work through it. Like you said, we've been doing it for many years. And yes, I mean, if I take back, I can't even remember what year it was that you started. Originally, you started Supercast. And I mean, that's many, many moons again. And yeah, you and I worked together from there as to build your stands. And so, no, what year was that?
I think 1990 we started. Yeah, so it's 30.
So
I think
that's
34 years
30,
now.
34 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, like that's a long time. Okay, but let's quickly run through the topics for tonight's episode. Uncle Richard has decided to bestow more juniors with all of his knowledge. So he started with the school league teams. So we're going to do a little bit of a weekend wrap up. I know the two of you are busy this weekend with two of the teams, and then after that, I quickly want to talk a little bit about like bait presentation, just to keep onto the fishing topics and just some tips and stuff like that. Uncle Richard was always part of the clinics and stuff like that that we had as juniors. Something that Dwayne Webb on one of the episodes where he clearly said that those clinics helped him to be the angler that he is today. So hopefully we can get a few tips from Uncle Richard and Dad tonight on that. And then to finish it off, if we have time, I want to talk a bit about fishing on a peg. For those who know Uncle Richard will know that Richard and Reinhard they fish together quite a lot. I don't think I've ever seen Uncle Richard at the dam without Reinhard. I think the two are usually a pair; they go hand in hand. Richard, how many essays have you guys fished together, or how many tournaments or stuff have you guys fished together?
Saki, I'm going to have to really go sit and think of how many times we've actually fished together as a peg. But besides that, all the angling we do together. From the provincial getting together, the elites, the pro-manias, him and I are basically always together. That's why we get called drum and raisin, R&R. So we've been together for many years. I think when I first met Reinhard, him and I didn't really communicate a lot. He got married to my wife's cousin, and that's how we actually met each other. And I said to him one day, no, wie's die gomgat? And today, him and I are great mates. We're the best of friends. We get along very well. And yes, between him and I don't think there's a peg mate I'd rather fish with than Reinhard.
I don't think there's a peg combination.
Barry, I think
let's keep it civil.
I think you're a bit more difficult.
I don't think there's a. I think you're going to have to look far and wide. I think you're going to look far and wide to find a peg combination that's fished competitive angling more than two of you. So there's definitely a few do's and don'ts that I think you can share with us. But that's only if we have a little bit of time. That's just to fill up the episode. I think the main point for tonight's episode is the school league. Like I said in one of the previous episodes, like I really want to emphasize the junior angling and try to get as much information for them as possible and for people out there, because it's something so new and it's something that I also find intriguing and I want to find out more about it. So this weekend you fished at Kies, Dad?
Yeah, Richard was approached by Andre. I don't know what's Andre's surname, but in any case, Andre is one of. Sorry, Teron.
Andre Teron. Yes.
Okay, Andre Teron is involved with Dynamica. Dynamica High or Dynamica Hoërskool, I'm not sure. But in any case, with Dynamica and Alberton, he's involved with the school leagues. And the two of them had a discussion, and Andre said to him that he would love to do something like that. And obviously, with the amount of people that Richard knows, he immediately said, fine, he will take it on and he will arrange for people so that the kids could come and fish with us and learn from us, and for us to share some of our knowledge with the younger generation. There's a lot of kids that's interested in fishing and that's doing it, but their parents doesn't fish themselves on the level that is expected of them, so they can't really help them. And that's where I think the whole thing started. And Richard, the moment when he phoned me, I immediately said, yes, it's great. Um, Everybody knows that I'm very fond of sharing knowledge and helping people, helping anybody with casting and the whole aspect of fishing. So we organized a lot of the top anglers, except for myself. I'm not one of the top ones, but I've been fishing for a long time. But the top anglers and me is what he organized to come and help.
Uncle Richard, who did you get? Who joined us? Who was there for the weekend?
Okay, Barry's underestimating himself there. Your dad surely is Ima as a top angler. So he's underestimating himself there. That's why I contacted him. Barry, you and Leah, I mean, you were one of the first couples that I found. I would have liked to have more ladies there over the weekend. Unfortunately, you had all Transvaal Ladies Championships this past weekend. So a lot of the ladies couldn't join us. Nadine, I would have loved to phone her. And I'm sure she would have joined us as well for this past weekend. So there were a lot of ladies I couldn't contact because they were fishing the All Transvaals. I did get Robert Breert and his wife, is Juliet Velman. I asked them. Unfortunately, Robert's vehicle had a breakdown, and I mean, they couldn't make it. And it's understandable. So besides them, Neville Ford was also contacted. I wanted to actually bring Neville in as a youngster. He's been through the junior ranks. He's not old like Barry and I. I wanted a youngster to come help us. But no, unfortunately, he also couldn't make it. He was involved, obviously, with his shop on that Saturday, and he had to withdraw. But other great names, which I'd like to, again, I'd like to thank them, is obviously Skulk. Skulk opted to bring two of his mates with, which he did. I mean, Spike Chabert, Robert Hearn, all Protea Anglers. I've got Marikas, who himself was a Runser Sport angler. He was willing to come help. We had Gideon, who's my vice chairman in the club. Who else was there?
Other Gideon
Lappies.
Geier, Lappies.
Lappies. No, I was talking Gideon van
Dat
Rooyen,
is
and then we had
Gideon and
Geier.
Gideon.
We had the two Gideons, Gideon Geier and Gideon van Rooyen, which were both willing, and especially Gideon Geier. I mean, this gentleman just decided, no, this is what he likes doing, and he's going to come help us. So to all of these anglers, I say, well done. I think it was a great success. And I'd just like to thank Dirk Kukemoer as well. Who did we miss? We had about 14 anglers. Originally, we had 18 anglers. Who did I miss? Let's think about it.
Okay, let's carry on. We'll get to them.
How many kids attended?
We had a total of 26 junior anglers, which I'd say at least 6 of them were younger dames, young ladies who joined us. So it was a good learning curve for everybody. I think it's the first time, like your dad was telling me, I was approached by Andre, and this was a dream that he was wanting to do. And I said, well, let's make it, kom ons maak het waar. Let's get this dream of yours running. And I found a few people, obviously all the top anglers, and they were all willing to help. So all these anglers that have come did it at their own costs. They were willing to come out, give us a hand, because they know it's important to get the juniors up and running en om terug te ploeg in junior hengelen.
It's nice to see the whole community getting together with the whole junior angling. I think it's something that's been lacking maybe a couple of years, and it's just nice to see actual like progress working on it and seeing how it goes up leaps and bounds. I saw some of the videos that my dad shared with me with some of the girls that were casting this weekend, and it's just amazing how to see how they go from where they were in the beginning to where they were at the end. And that's just a single day. So I can just imagine if you do this on a consistent basis, where they will be after, let's say, a year or two.
Yes, that's just on one day that we managed to get this. I mean, there was a young lady on peg, I think 4 it was, who really struggled the morning. By the afternoon, she was casting well, her feed was right, Loppies had sorted her traces out, and she ended up catching 16 fish on the day. So it just shows you what we can do just in one day. Imagine us putting more effort into it. And I just want to say from my side, this all started with Andre asking me to help him out on this. But I've noticed a lack in juniors by the province as well. And if I take it, Randsport initiated a effort to try and get junior angling up and running within our club. And we managed to get, I think, 6 or 8 juniors. And all 6 or 8 of those juniors represented Central Gauteng at the SA Championships last year in December. They all came from Runter Sport. And it was my initiative, and it's my, if it's my last duty within the club, I would like to see junior angling grow to what it was in the past.
Yeah, to the days where we were fishing when I was still a junior with Dean.
To those
Transport
days.
it was a force to be reckoned with.
When it came to juniors.
Any of the league. Yeah.
Something else that I would love to just mention quickly, and I'm sure Saki will recall it. With his first provincial trials, if I remember correctly, was at Grootdraai Dam, and it was one of those real Standerton days where the fishing was tough and it was raining and pouring, and Saki was battling. He was a youngster, small, very small, between the other bigger lighties, and they were catching fish like crazy, and Saki was battling, and he couldn't get the distance, and he eventually, who was it, Saki, Dean, or that came to you and asked if you, Saki, is jy nog alright? When you were
I think it
down?
was either Dean or Sways. It was Dean and Sways. It was the two of them sat on my side. So Dean was on the one side and Sways van Niekerk was on my other side. And I think both of them were like just seeing this 13-year-old boy standing in the water with the rain pouring down, not catching any fish, and just like, shame. It'll get better. Trust me, it'll get better. And it did. And it did. We ended up fishing
Yeah.
quite a few years together, which was quite a lot of fun.
And they were themselves, they were also there. I mean, if you take it, I mean, Dean, the first time he got his provincial colours in the A team, he was only 12 years old, which I thought he was too young. But I mean, he did so well at those trials, they just had to put him in the team. And like you're saying, 13 years old, I mean, you're fishing against all the youngsters that are 16, 17, and 18 years old.
I remember with my first essays, I was 13. And after the first day of fishing, the guy that was sitting next to me, the junior that was sat next to me, opened a beer afterwards. He sat there, took out a beer out of his cooler box. Remember that, Dad? I think you were there
Yes.
after the
At
practice day.
Trichard.
Yeah, I think, yeah, he walked to his cooler box, he took out a beer, opened a beer. I was like, I was fishing right next to this guy, and he's still sitting drinking a beer. I'm 13, I'm still in primary school. But yeah, it's lucky to see. But I believe the fishing for the day at Kies was a bit slow, Dad.
It was that typical story where everybody knows that left-hand side of gears is very is a lot better than those real shallows. I believe the junior that had the most fish in the 40s. Skulk said to me that he fished till about 10 o'clock and he had 20. After the whole day's fishing, although I did not do a lot of fishing, but after the day, I had 11 fish in my net. I had 10 in the net, and the next one, the other rod went, so I caught the 11th one. So I had the 11 for the day. But I say on a day like that, you don't want to catch a lot of fish because the more the fish are biting, the less you get time to help the kids and show them what you want to show. So I think it was good. We caught a couple of fish. We could show the kids there with us how we land the fish, how we turn the shoulder, and our whole routine that we normally have. So we could show them that, but we also had time to stop and stand and work on the casting and work on the bait presentation and everything else that goes with it. So I think all in all, it was one massive success as far as myself and Leah is concerned. Um, it was really something that's close to our hearts, and we could do it, and hopefully one day those kids will remember the day, and when they get out to the top.
Yeah, I definitely just want to add. I had a lot of comments coming to me and parents telling me how they really enjoyed it. I mean, the effort you and Leah put in, even Gideon, you guys really put a lot of effort in, and there were a lot of comments coming and them telling us just how they enjoyed the day, and they just cannot believe all the work you guys put in. So yeah, no, you're absolutely correct in saying you didn't spend much time behind your rods because you were putting the effort into the juniors, and that's awesome. If I take little Johan Simon, Johan, that little youngster is getting coached via Flom Simon and his dad, Johan. And if you, I think that
And
youngster must have had
Marika's
13
then.
or, and Marikas, yes. But he must have had 13 or 14 fish. And he's
Mm.
only a little youngster of 9 years old. And if you look at the way that youngster fishes, if we can all just put in that bit more effort, we'll see how this junior angling, the careers will just blossom.
Something that I just want to emphasize, and that's soft point to my heart, is the fact that a person must also remember, um, unfortunately, life is cruel. And there's a lot of kids that's got a lot of potential and that's got a lot of will and loves it and enjoys it. But unfortunately, situations at home is to the extent where they can't get everything that we have. There's kids that's fishing with tackle that is absolutely not suited for what we are doing. Um, but they got the will, they want to be there. And that to me is also so important. And that's why I would love to ask the people, if there's people around the whole country, anybody, if you got an old stand that's still usable, um, if you want to, feel free and contact me and say, listen, yeah, we got some stands, we can scrape it off and spray it, or just revamp it a little bit, and make it available for people like that. Um, any tackle for that matter. It's not only stands, rods. There's so many rods. I've got rods in my garage. That after this weekend, I said to Leah, definitely I'm going to make it available for somebody to use. It is not. It is not up to date, if I can put it that way. It's old school rods, the old 13-foot solids, mean one piece rods. We fished with it for years, and definitely it is still usable. But nowadays we all want something that fits in the car. And I'm sure if a person give that to a kid and say, Dad, please can we get two suction caps and put it on the car, I'm sure it can help. So definitely, I just think a person must not look past the point that everybody is not in the fortunate position. And remember, it's kids. So let's help the kids and look past the rest. Um, I'm 100% sure that we will be able to help a lot of those kids to further their fishing careers, and just help them on the way. Just give them the right stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point that you're making there, and I think as more eyes fall onto the junior fishing, more programs will develop, and they will be. I always want to put it like a fundraise or competitions where if there's students, I know there was a girl that wanted to go to the essays, and there was like a little fundraiser for her as well. Stuff like that where student kids want to go to the essays, but unfortunately we know how expensive it is, and especially if you're going to go to Bloemhof or something like that, that's even more. So I do think that as it progresses, and initiatives like Uncle Richard with Sport and stuff like that, it will snowball, and I think at the end of the day, I think it will benefit a lot of the kids.
Saki, I think you're absolutely correct. It's going to evolve. This weekend that we started, I think, was the first of its kind. And this is for sure. It's going to evolve. You're going to get more people involved in this type of initiative where they would like to take the juniors out so they can fish for the day. We've had a lot of clinics where you go to the school grounds and you have casting clinics, you present the type of baits, you bait presentations, the making of the feed, but you're not at the water, so it's not the same thing. Unfortunately, doing this is getting the parents a lot more involved as they have to bring the kids to the water. But I can see this growing into a lot bigger sort of a training camp, let's put it that way, a training camp, where they'll be going out and we'll be helping them and getting their tackle up to standard. And not necessarily in an expensive way. I mean, you can come there with the old stand, just have the right rods. It might not be the best rods and reels, but the techniques that need to be applied on the day while angling will evolve and you'll gain by it.
And if you have a program like that, you're gonna very quickly identify the angler where you can see, okay, this one's got the potential, this one's got the will, but let's see if we can get rods for this one. Let's see if we can get a stand for this one. Let's quickly try to fix this one's box up a little bit. I mean, we know so many people in the industry, and we've got, especially with a podcast, if we do a shout out here and say, listen, guys, let's quickly get together. We need 2 stands. I'm pretty sure there's a few listeners that will be like, okay, they can put their hand up and assist. And so if you have a project like that where you can identify the anglers, because I don't think it's at this point in time we have any knowledge. I think you can see an angler, you can identify it more or less, but you don't necessarily know how serious they are and how far they can take it. But if the project is there for a little bit of a longer time, like you said, like a camp or something like that, you can identify it a little bit easier. So you know that the stuff goes to the right angler, not just going to be in somebody else's garage for 2 or 3 years.
For sure. Definitely, I can see it growing.
Something else that I think that us and the schools and everybody must take it out is to start looking at your local dams. A person don't need to go to Waldam to go and fish, or to go and practice something, or to go and have a clinic, or to go and show the kids or help them. We we are in the situation with, for instance, Blowpan in Kempton Park. Or you can, I don't know what the situation is at Florida Lake, but I know years ago we had a lot of clinics that we used to do there. I'm sure the 50 Rand Dam there in Alberton, I haven't been there myself, but I'm sure if from the amount of people that I've heard that go and fish there, I'm sure that if we ask them, listen, is it possible for you to just keep a section for us open for development and for a clinic purpose? I'm 100% sure if we reach out to those people, they will say, yes, come, we'll do it. Because they know if the kids are there today, they will come back tomorrow. And at the end of the day, it's advertising for them. So I'm 100% sure everybody, irrespective of where they are, there are small local dams that the person can use. Then the parents don't have to travel all the way to Val Dam. It's just rather get us um, as mentor anglers to travel to them than to get everybody, all of us, going out to Waldam. That's a schlep, and they can rather. A lot of parents will think that they can rather take that money for the petrol and go next week and fish a competition than just to go out for the day. Um, that's just something that I think that we should look at. I think that the schools must go and look for a small local dam and go negotiate and talk to the farmer, talk to the people in control at whichever dam it is, and see what they can arrange to get a specific area and just say, we want this area that we can book for that, and if you can give it to us free of charge, it will be so much better.
Definitely so, Barry. The 50 Rand Dam, I think, yes, it's a nice little dam. Unfortunately, very, very small. So you're not going to get a lot of anglers in there, but it's close to us. Not necessarily that you have to have all 26. We could maybe split it up into 2, 13 anglers the one weekend, and then maybe the next weekend have another 13 anglers there. As long as we're putting it back into angling, we're getting the juniors out. And like you said, I mean, it's saving a lot of fuel costs. It's just down the road. We all know there's a 50 Rand dam, I mean, which was quite expensive. But if we take it, you go to any of the farms on the Vaal Dam, you're paying between 70 and 80 Rand per angler for the day. And you still got your fuel costs.
If I just take it for myself, like with I'm busy learning how to cast these little bait casters. And for me to actually go to the lake, that's 2.5 hours on a little 150 bike. So that's 2.5 hours and 2.5 hours back. So 5 hours on a bike to just go practice a little bit how to cast with this. That doesn't make any sense. So luckily I do have a little pond here quite close to me, and it's big enough for me to at least just get a line weight. So that makes a lot more sense, just time wise and effort wise. So it boils down to the same thing for them, where it just makes sense. If you can do it somewhere closer, just do it.
Cost savings is going to be the ultimate thing, yeah. As like you said,
Yeah.
a lot of the parents don't have the funding to be
Financial
able to take
means, yeah.
the financial means. And I mean, their kids would love to go and fish, but financially, it's not always viable for the parent as such.
And I think you're going to have to get to a point where if I'm coming back to the whole thing with Uncle Richard, where he said about the plan with like the program, the training camp, with something like a samurai geleentheid, where you're going to have to put multiple kids in one car to drive, to get every child's mom and dad to drive all the way out there. It's also not necessarily the best idea. Get to know each other, do 'n samurai geleentheid, maybe get a little busy, use one of the school
The school
bussies.
bus.
I'm pretty sure I'm thinking about my high school. We had those little sprinter bussies.
Quantums.
I mean, a sprinter bussie can go no, I can't remember what it was. But those little buses, they can get anywhere on Valdem quite easily on a normal day where you want to go fish.
For sure. And I know a lot of the schools are doing it. I mean, I've seen it where the Hans Moore bus is at the waters. So for sure, the buses are getting supplied by the schools. It's obviously then just for their league. It's not for a practice. But I'm absolutely sure they could organize it for the practice days as well. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the junior, and the school is going to be represented by that junior. So the accolades
only
come
wat die
back to school.
skoolbus gesteel het. Daai only wat die Hans Moore skoolbusie gesteel het, is nou in die dakbox. Hy het nie die skool uitgevat, hy het die busie uitgevat en gaan fish.
And it's not just them. I'm sure there's a lot of the schools doing it, and they're supplying the school bus. Because at the end of the day, the school angling is a facet. It's a sport at the school. So they get their bulkies, they get their accolades at school. It's a school sport.
Just to get back to the fishing a little bit for this weekend, I saw Gideon sent me a video where the two boys that fished with him both caught those duck grassies. Both the boys caught their personal best grassie on Saturday. I think that's quite an achievement, having both the little boys fishing with you catching their PBs. Was there a lot of those big grassies coming out, Dad?
There were three, and I think that I saw, and all three were caught by the same two lighties. One broke his PB twice, and the other one caught his. I didn't see anybody else catch any of those nice grassies. And I don't know if that was because it was like very early in the morning. We just got there. So I don't know if he immediately helped them or if they caught that on their own with their own bait stories. I don't know. I never asked. But it was well done, and it was big smiles definitely there very early.
Ons staan hier saam met Etienne. Ons is hier by Kies. Hy het ook sy personal best graskarp gevang. So altyd oudjies op die pen het nou 'n mooi grasie gevang. Dis lekker, né?
Ja.
Baie lekker.
The rest of the day, it was, as far as I'm concerned, there where we were, I caught one small muddy, and the rest were all those 3, 4, 500 gram carpies. I think I had one or two grassies, one muddy, I think two grassies, and the rest were carp.
Uncle Richard, and there by you.
He
Saki,
was
I
not
mean, if we
allowed to
take that,
fish.
no, I didn't
He's
fish. I
too
wanted to
good.
walk up and down. Not that I'm too good. I wanted to walk just up and down and introduce myself to all the juniors. But now, if you take Kies's water, the first 4 or 5 pegs, that water is always the hot water. We all know it. It's the best piece of water at Kies. And they all did well. And then you got that big sloop, which is very, very shallow. Reinhard and I had to peg that water over 3 times before we decided this is how it's going to be. We didn't want to go into the big bay area because of it being so shallow. But unfortunately, because of the dam receding like it has, we had to make use of the big bay, which was unfortunately very shallow. If I take on peg 15, Gideon, later the afternoon he could walk, and he walked right through where he was angling. But we had no other water. So the pegs 1 to 5 did very well. The morning, everybody started getting a fish. As the day progressed, the weather, the wind died down. There was absolutely no wind. And as the day got hotter and hotter, I mean, I think, Barry, you were telling me how hot the water is when you walk in. So, I mean, obviously with not much, oxygen in the water, no wind, the fish obviously weren't in that bay anymore. They would obviously go find a bit cooler.
Would you say you prefer to fish in the wind or without wind, Uncle Richard?
No, I would definitely rather have wind. Wind's
Any
not always
wind
your
is
best
better
friend.
than no wind.
Definitely so. What does wind do? It obviously generates waves. Waves generate oxygen, and the fish just start going into a feeding frenzy. So for me, there should always be wind. Obviously, when it gets to 25, 30 kilometers per hour, we all start moaning, and we can't keep our lines in, and you fish in down the bank, no longer in front of you because of the wind situation. But for sure, I think having wind is the best option.
If I can say something there, this time of the year, the water is just in that shallow area where we were, was just so warm you can't believe it. Now, what's happening is, let's say, for instance, you're in the middle of the winter and you get those calm days, like warm winter days that we get here in Gauteng, and there's absolutely no wind. Then the top, let's say 20 or 30 centimeters of the water heats up quickly during the day, and all your fish come up and they park there because at the bottom it's like 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees colder, the water. So they come up and they yarn. You see them right on top of the water. They're not interested in feeding. They're just having a lekker tan there, and they love it. The moment when the wind starts pumping, then that it gets uncomfortable for them because I get thrown left and right and up and down and what the whole story. Then they go down. The moment when they go down, then they say, here's like a carpo fix or this or that, and let's start feeding. And that's when you start catching the fish. So the main thing is just those calm days is just too calm for the fish. They absolutely go and tan there on top. Well, that's what I always say, because you will see them right on top of the water, and that's why any wind always is better than no wind under all circumstances. I've never had a day without wind that was a good day.
But to circle back to those grassies, I saw on Facebook lately some of those grassies that's coming out in the Vaal River and stuff like that. Yes, like it. I don't know, Uncle Richard, have you seen any of those posts?
I've been seeing the posts, yes, and I think I genuinely think those are just your average grass carps in the Vaal Dam. If you take in the little dams you got here, Florida Lake, Germiston Lake, you're getting grass carps of up to 20 kilos easy. So I can just imagine the size that they actually are in the Vaal Dam system. We're catching these of 10, 11, 12, even up to 15 kilograms. But I think you got monster grass carp of, must be easy 20 kilos in the Vaal Dam. We just don't get a lot of them. I don't know if it's a shy fish. And they go in schools. You'll find if somebody gets a grass carp, there's basically a school of grass carp there. Whether it's the small ones, the big ones, then they're there. I think it's the same as a barbel. In the morning, we'd throw for a barbel, and within the first half an hour, if he hasn't picked it up, there are no big barbel in the area. And I think it's accounts for the same thing when it comes to the grass carps. They go around in schools. At one stage, somebody said they were flying a microlight over the dam, and you could see the big school of grass carp that they were. So yeah, I think Vaal Dam's got huge grass carp.
I think one of the things that a person got to remember about the grass carp is the fact that they fight completely different to your normal fish, and I think that is what makes them so hard to get. Not hard to get, but it's not a thing that you sit and you catch them all day long, or that everybody get them. You tend to lose a lot of them. And as far as I'm concerned, the couple of big ones that or the couple of grass carp that I caught that was of a better size, all has got the nature of making these short. All of a sudden, it comes in, and all of a sudden, it will make that burst where he just takes off again, or all of a sudden you think you just like I've lost this fish because he's swimming straight towards you, and then you think it's off, and the next one he turns around and he moves the other direction again. So it's one of those fish that I really think that the moment when you think something looks funny, because they tend to also bite different. It's like it's as if they jerk, and then takes off, and or the line is just flat, just slop completely, and you don't know what it is. And next one you'll find out that eventually it's one of them. That one that I caught the other day at last farm from 6.5 kilos. That thing was biting like so slow. I couldn't believe when I eventually landed the fish, because that one again took it, and it was gave me that slow bite and stop, and then push it back a little bit and pick it up a little bit. And eventually I thought, well, let me just strike it. And I took the rod and I struck it, and all hell broke out, because all of a sudden he realized, yes, like what's happening now. So that's something that people that is not experienced can look at. If you get that awkward bites, don't think it's a small one that's stuffing around. It might be like a big grassy.
Well, it seems like there's quite a lot of confusion around these fish. I think I think you guys still have quite a bit to learn on how to catch them, how to target them. It's quite clearly that it's completely different than a carp or a muddy. I think if you look at the light tackle boat, I mean, some of the guys catch them on a kekingi, on a little chick. We've seen it multiple times where the guys will come to the scale with 10 big barbel and 3 big grassies. So it's like Uncle Richard said, it's almost more similar to a barbel than to the carp. The way they move around, the way they feed.
Saki, yes, I have to agree with your dad. A grass carp, when he picks, for some other reason, you really get a real run. He'll pick that bait up, and he'll 9 times out of 10 start swimming in with it. So you'll keep picking up your line, picking up your policeman, flicking it out, and you'll just fly your line just saying pop all the time. So you'll pick the rod up, start reeling in, and that grass carp will just keep swimming in. As soon as he seems to realize he's in shallow water, or he sees you or feels a vibration or something close to him, he then turns around, and that's when you know you've got that big grass carp, because that's where they fight. And they fight literally till you'll realize once you've put him into the net, he's just about dying the way he's out of oxygen.
Yeah.
And then when you get to land a grass carp, it's important, all your bigger grass carp, to have a big net. All these anglers with their small nets and they think they're going to land a big grass carp in that small net, 9 times out of 10 you'll lose him, because as soon as he's in the net, he seems to tail and jump out that net. So you need to have a big net, and once you've got him in the net, you lift that net out the water as high as you can to get distance between the water and the fish. Then he doesn't get away. But no, they bite very funny, and for me, they tend to pick up more often than not. They pick up floaties, but I've caught big grass carp on worms, even snake worms. Snake worms they like, and then your normal doe. A lot of them pick up a doe, but I'd say 90% of the time they tend to pick up more a floaty.
Yeah, what's your success? Is it also floaty? What?
I really can't say that I've had a lot of success. I'm, I had an old story where I said it's only the cockalollies that catch those big ones, because they duck and dive me. I can't get them. But the few times that I did manage to fluke one and put it in the net, it was always on a floaty. But I do know that people like Johan Bekkers will definitely say that he catches him with flying ants and with snakes. They often do target him with that.
This is actually a quite nice segue. Coming back to a bit to bait presentation, Uncle Richard. A question that I've been pondering about quite a bit lately is the whole fact where you guys put the floaty back into the bomb. You hook it back into the bomb. Some put the shaft of the hook back into the bomb. Some hook the tip of the hook back into the bomb. What's the reason behind putting the floaty back into the bomb? I know that there's some of them that says that as soon as it drops to the bottom now, there's some movement. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's going to be movement regardless of where you put the floaty. So what is your argument? Do you do it? And if you do it, why?
Saki, no, yes, I also do it. If there's a lot of reasons we do it. Firstly, if we're fishing distance, we don't want two baits dangling in the air, so we put them on the ball to keep your bait all nicely compact whilst going through the air. But that's not just the only reason. We've got the fact that it will hit the water. If you just hook it onto the ball, it will come loose then, and that's more often than not, that's for distance. But there are times where you want it to stay in the ball, so it goes down with the ball, it stays in the ball, and as your ball starts breaking up, and the fish is obviously sucking on the ball, blowing out, sucking on the ball, blowing out, you'll then suck that floaty or that bait in. So sometimes it is important as part of the presentation. They're not necessarily feeding on the floaty. He's coming and he's feeding on the carpo fix. So you'd suck the carpo fix in.
I like that.
You'd suck the carpo fix in, and when he's blowing it out, obviously the hook hooks him. And so that's also a factor. So for me, a lot of the times, I mean, you got a lot of yellowfish in the area picking up your floaties. Then we'd stick the bait into the ball so that the other fish has the time to get to the ball before the yellowfish gets there. So there are definitely places where you are well advised to rather use no floats because of the yellowfish problem, or if you want to use them, you push them into the ball to try and minimize the pickups of the yellowfish. Because how does a yellowfish pick up your bait? It normally swims over is a predator. He'd swim over your ball with his tail. He'll pick up the bait, moving his tail over the ball, and that he turns around, and that's why you always get the reel run. The yellowfish will then turn around and grab the floaty, and 9 times out of 10, then you get these reel runs. So definitely there are places where you need to push the floaty into the ball.
And do you hook them, if I can put it, like 2 ears onto the bomb, or do you put both of them on the same side? Is there a specific way how you prefer to hook it or to push it back into the bomb?
Me personally, when I do it, I prefer putting them on either side. A lot of the anglers have said, I think Loki said it once, that a ball will go lie down a certain way. And I just got the belief that not necessarily it will end up on the bottom of the dam in that way. So I'd rather have one on the opposite side. Should it fall wrong,
So you'll hook it like 2 years.
2 years, yes. Not two exactly next to each other.
Yeah, I think it was on one of Loki's videos where I saw the similar thing where he said that he hooks it on both on the, let's say, on the front side, and then as it goes down, because that side will be more buoyant, it will always land on the same side. But with my luck, it will be just the opposite side, and you'll have to wait 40 minutes for that bomb to break out. Well, with the copper fix, only a minute and a half.
Exactly.
Dad, is it anything different for you? I know for a fact that you like to do that as well.
Like to? No, I don't like to.
I've seen you do it.
Yeah, I do it from time to time, but
I think
that's not something
it's
that I
more
like.
for the distance. I think you do it more for a distance thing then.
I think it's more just because I see the Protea Anglers are doing it, so I'll try it. Maybe I can catch a fish. But I can't say that I've had any success where I can say, look, yeah, I haven't pushed this into the bomb now, and now I don't get a bite. I don't. It's to me really. I personally think it's irrelevant. I do it sometimes. Sometimes the moment when the fish start biting, then I say that's a waste of time, as far as I'm concerned. Um, Something that I also can't understand, and I haven't had anybody giving me a proper answer, is when do you push the eye part into the bomb, and when do you push the hook part in the bomb, Richard?
Okay, for me, I think it's I don't know. I always push the eye part in. For me, it's just the way I feel. It's the way I was taught. I push the eye part of the hook into the bomb. So that you've got the round sharp point and the floaty protruding. Because obviously the fish is going to suck that floaty with the point of the hook into its mouth first. So that's just my belief. Just another thing I want to say on floaties, on pushing them into the balls and stuff. Obviously, when the dams start subsiding and we got a lot more mud or still the muddy waters, I prefer having a hook link that's a bit longer. And I would say rather not put it, press the floaties or the baits into the ball, as that whole ball is going to go into your mud and your stilt. You'd rather have it come out and the line gets followed with a floaty on the hook, and it's lying on top of that stilt where the ball might be in that mud. So yeah, for me, I like doing it. It keeps the bait close to the ball.
But Richard, if you do that, what do you do? Do you then always just use floaty, or don't you use any dough behind it?
No, definitely I use those.
Because
I would
if you have a dough behind it, how do you push eye into the bomb?
on that hook. I don't put a dough behind it. I would then on the top
Okay.
hook, and I would always
So
put
if
my
you got
floaty
a
on the bottom hook. And
okay,
what I would do
isn't
with
that the
my
wrong way
bottom hook,
around?
that's the way I believe it. I always used to put it on the top hook, my floaty. I've since about 2012, 13, I've changed it around because with us using the reef trays and that top hook being loose, that it can move away from your ball. So you got your stroppy or your trays. I find that when it's going down and it's hanging loose, that float is going to move that 200 or 300 millimeters away from your ball. And I want to prevent that, so I put the float on the bottom. It can only come up and it will then only float above my ball. You've got your small particles of millibomb coming off, going into your water line, and your float is also hanging in the same area as what those little particles are coming off from your ball, not 200 or 300 millimeters away from your ball. What I also do is I tend to take my bottom hook. If I put a dough on behind, I put a dough behind that. I would take that dough and I would lightly press that dough onto the ball so that the floaty is hanging loose. It's just the dough keeping the floaty stuck to the ball. So those are a few little
Richard,
things that I do.
and if you just using a dough,
I would normally put just the dough. I put it on top. I would put it on my top hook.
Yeah, but into the bomb or not?
Not into the bomb. No, not necessarily. I like leaving my dough hanging loose. It's just the way I believe it's done.
You guys talking about a dough now. Uncle Richard, I'm going to ask you because I know how my dad fishes his, so he can always add at the end. When you fish a dough, let's say with or without a floaty, how fine do you fish your dough? Are you one of those that puts a fair bit of dough behind it, or are you a little bit of a finer, longer, like almost like it's swirling it down the line? How do you fish your dough?
Dough is dependent on the day, obviously. If you got a very windy day and the fish are fairly aggressive, there's a lot of oxygen in the water, I would fish a biggish dough. And I mean, it's not that I'll just put it just onto the hook. I would roll it up with the line as well. But if you got a day where you got like we had on Saturday, there's no wind, I would put a fine dough on, basically just on the hook, and I would make it as thin as possible as well. But generally, I'm not I wouldn't say it's a grove deegie. I would say it's a biggish dough. But on a day where the fish are skittish and there's no wind, in winter months maybe, I would put a very small and fine dough on.
Dad, how about you?
Yeah. Winter months, I'm on the almost whole pot of dough. I'm, I like a fat dough because I know I'm going to chuck it in. I'm going to wait for an hour or maybe hour and 15, an hour 30 minutes. So I like a bigger dough in the winter months always. Um, Summer months, then yeah, I make it a big dough, not a bigger dough. I very seldom fish small fine doughs. I believe in it that you need to give the fish food. It's a habit that we got at our house that you feed whoever wants to eat. You feed them. So if there's a carp coming past or muddy, give him some food. He'll eat. Why just give him a little bit? No, he mustn't be on a diet. That's why you catch your fat ones.
Make it worth it.
Absolutely. Something that I can add to the whole story that Richard was saying about it, those days where there's where there's no wind. There I agree. I will definitely fish a finer bait. Definitely, I will put a lot less muti on the bomb. That's why we always hope for a lot of wind so that the people can use a lot of muti. Um, but if there's no wind, literally just a drop, one or two drops on the bomb, I've found that it definitely gives you a better biting tempo than when you flood the whole bomb. A guy with PK, I think it's PK Horsbrook, if but in any case, he sat next to us one day at Moelman. We fished there on the island, and the wind was completely quiet. Just like he at the stage came to me and he said to me, Barry, you know what? I think you might get fish if you put less muti on the bomb. And I said to him, do you really think it will make a difference? He said, yes, I think it will make a difference. Just try it. And I went and I tried it, and immediately I think it was 10, 15 minutes later, I had a fish and I caught another one and I caught another one. And that was something that I took in that day. And I will always say thanks to Pierre. He definitely gave me a bit of advice that day, and it definitely works. No wind, very, very little muti.
Uncle Richard, do you agree with that? What's your mindset around the muti? You said you will use a fine dough, but for the dip and for your additives, how would you fish that?
Absolutely. I think all you guys supplying dips and that are not going to like me as a mentor or somebody buying Mutis by you or getting sponsored by you guys, because I use minimal when it comes to dips. There are the days that I'll maybe flood the ball, but I'm very, very light on dips, especially when it comes to your stronger dips like your gum trees and your stutterfids. I just find I'm scared to throw that type of dip, as it might just chase a couple of fish that are in the area. So to me, I say is getting your feeding spot going, fish in the area, getting the feed in, drawing the fish closer. Then you need to obviously get your bait presentation sorted out. You might find you sitting on a peg with your mate. You're both fishing the same depth, the same distances, yet he's getting real runs and you just getting your ball pushed around, and you're getting back bites and it's not really working for you. It comes down to bait presentation. He's putting it on just a bit differently, or he might have a smaller hook size, so he's getting the bites or the fish sucking up the bait a lot faster. You putting it on too rough or too rough, whatever you want to put it, it's too big. Baits are for me the most important with bait presentation and your balls, your millies. Dips, I'm not big on dips. Yes, I got it in my box. If you're fishing in a team, as a team, you have to have it obviously in your box. If your team captain comes to you and say, listen, Petit Janine's a thing to put on, you've got it in your box.
Uncle Richard, you said you touched on something very briefly that's I think the last topic for tonight. I think the time is getting a bit late now. Millies, you said your millie or your whatever you might use. Dad, gooi millies. Ooh, I know I don't think you have millies in your box. I know there's millies in the trailer. There will always be everything's in the trailer. What's your opinion? When to use it? Let me ask Uncle Richard first. Uncle Richard, millies. What is your opinion on millies? When do you use it? When don't you use it?
Look, I mean, there are dams, and Bloemhof's a typical example. Bloemhof, if I get to the dam in the morning, I would obviously make my feed, and I would take a tin of the whole kernel millies, whether it be Koo or the Checkers brand, it doesn't really matter. I throw the water off. I make sure most of that water is taken off. And then obviously I try and get the preservative off. I go and I just wash it, the millies, and I then put it into my mix of feed for the day. And then I do, out of that feed, I would take a millipip and I would hook a millipip onto one of my hooks. And you'll find, especially Bloemhof, you'll find 90% of the times it'll start picking that bait up. You tend to push the little hard piece of the pip out, and what I do as well, I'll push that into the ball. Once again, it'll go onto my top hook, and I would push it into the ball. So it becomes part of my feed, and with having the millies in the feed, the fish will tend to want to pick it up. Any other dams? I've just found that other dams don't seem to work so well, but I think a lot of the smaller dams in the area, Eastern Transvaal, you find a lot of those pips seem to work on the day.
Dad, what's your opinion?
I normally say little birds eat worms, chickens love their millies, and fish eat dough. That's my motto. But in any case, yes. Last weekend, not now, the previous one there at Bloemhof, the Saturday we fished and we carried on, and it was normal floaties and those. Sunday morning, Leah got to the water and she thought, well, okay, she's going to throw a millipip. And she took 2 bottles out. When we left at the factory, she took 2 bottles and put it in the car. She put that pip on and boom, she's into a fish, and there she's into a fish. I said, yeah, okay, carry on. And in the meantime, I'm well ahead of her, so it didn't bother me. After that storm that we spoke about last week, I got out and immediately I was into the fish again. But the fish were that 500 gram carpies. And Leah got out and she put her pips out, and her first one was at kilo and a half. Next one was about a kilo, and another one of about a kilo. And when she caught the third one, I said, stuff that. Went to the car, got hold of the bottle that she took for me, put the pips on, and I chuck it, and it was 5 minutes. I caught a lacquer one, and eventually I caught in the last half an hour. I caught 3 carp, and all 3 of them definitely over a kilo. So that was so much for chicken. But in any case, there's always a place for it. I just haven't got place for it in my box. I'll have it in the nose cone or somewhere around there. But in general, for Waldam and the places that we normally fish, no. But Bloemhof, yes, it's been like that all the years. And Richard and them have done it. All the essays that I was there with them. But I don't know. I will definitely not start with it. I also don't put it in my bomb into my ground bait. I say that you do that if you haven't got confidence in your ground bait. That's when you put kumilis in.
Okay, but at least there's still a time and a place for a millie. I think that's something that you can never disregard. I think it's something that you always need to have at least one little bottle somewhere, either in the car, in the bucky, or something like that. It's something where I would leave the custard powder at home, but I will never leave the millie at home. I'll always pack a little bit of that in. Okay, but I think let's call it quits for tonight. We've been busy for almost an hour and 10 or 15 minutes now. It was a good episode, Uncle Richard. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Thank you for talking about the leagues and stuff like that. It was really fun.
Sakina, I want to thank you guys. I mean, I think you are doing a great job. I mean, this podcast that you have started, if the anglers just start watching, I think there's a lot of tips to be picked up. And this is also just going to go from strength to strength. So from our side, like I said, it's absolute pleasure that I've been able to talk on this podcast of yours. And I hope somebody's picked up a couple of tips, but definitely millies in the nose going for when you go to Bloemhof.
Dad, weer eens dankie vir pa se moeite. Ons is nou op episode 8. So ons raak nou so al hoe nader aan daai episode 10 toe. Vir die mense, vir die luisteraars by die huis, thank you for listening again. Please remember, if you watch on YouTube, subscribe, comment all your questions that you have. You can always follow us on Facebook. We've got a lot of more content there. We've got videos, we've got more ads, more of all the other things that you would want to find on Facebook. And with that, I want to say thank you. Okay, bye-bye.